Okay, we're in chapter 7, text 6, where Krishna is speaking about, after talking about material energy, now Krishna is talking about he's the source of both spiritual and material energy. Material energy is inferior, spiritual energy is superior, and we are affected by both material energy and spiritual energy. Tatashta Shakti, as I was explaining, Tata means river bank, sometimes covered by water, sometimes it's covered by sand, depending on high tide or low tide. So similarly, our consciousness is sometimes covered by spiritual potency, sometimes covered by material potency. It is safe to say that 90% of the time it is covered by material potency. Maybe because we're coming to Philosophy Friday and studying the Bhagavad Gita, maybe there's 10% time that we are thinking of or covered by spiritual potency. Those are the moments of ecstasy, moments of joy, whether we're chanting or hearing or some kirtan or some prasadam, something that makes us spiritually happy and uplifted. That's when the spiritual potency is acting, where we have the desire to give something, to do some service, to chant, to do something spiritual. But generally speaking, we are always in the mood of material covering, where let me do something of that is material in nature. That means forgetting Krishna or remembering Krishna. There's a difference between the two, right? How often do they remember Krishna? For different people, it's different things. So it's important to understand that. Now, all created beings have the sources in the two natures. So we have material nature and spiritual nature. Generally speaking, spiritual nature is subdued. Material nature is what's prominent. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm this and that, and whatever, right? Spiritual nature is I'm soul, part and parcel of Krishna. And everything else comes thereafter. But primarily, I'm soul, part and parcel of Krishna. And I'm a soul in a human body, born in a certain family, in a certain nation, in a certain thing. And the other side is thinking and acting in a way where I'm this body, I'm Indian, I'm a Hindu, I'm a this, I'm a that, etc. Right? So both natures are influencing. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. So Krishna, I am, he's saying now first person singular. Before chapters, he was mentioning the supreme, Brahmajyoti, something, he was referring to God as if he's not God. And that's the beauty of 7th chapter onwards. Now that Arjun has been educated sufficiently, he's now qualified to see Krishna as who he is. Krishna is God. Now Krishna starts speaking, well, actually that's not true. I'm sorry. In previous chapters also, there are parts where Krishna is referred to as the supreme, and he has also spoken, I am. Like, for example, chapter 5, he says, Yoktaram, Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, where he's saying, I am the enjoyer of all the tapasyas, and the ruler of all the different lokas. Right? I'm the controller, not ruler, but controller of all the different lokas. So he's mentioning first person. The point is, here onwards, Krishna is more revealing his heart, and because now we are in the bhakti phase. So he will speak very much first person singular, right? So he is saying that he is the origin and the dissolution of both the material and the spiritual energies, right? Therefore, spirit and matter, which combine to manifest this gigantic universal form, are originally two energies of the Lord. And consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragmental part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may be the cause of a big skyscraper or a big factory or a big city, but he cannot be the cause of this big universe. So we have both the natures, spiritual and material nature working. Both are coming from Krishna. One is Maya Shakti, material energy. The other one is Yoga Maya potency, which is spiritual potency. Now, there's an example Srila Prabhupada gives, not in Bhagavad Gita, but in Nectar Devotion that I really appreciate. He says that electricity, the same electricity that's coming from the power grid, is used to heat up water through the geyser. And the same electricity is used to cool the air using air conditioner. So like that, Krishna's energy is used also in the material way, it's spiritual way also. And the material thing can be spiritualized. And that's the beauty of it. All right. Just like the same energy, electric energy, can be used to cool the air or heat the water. So Krishna's, because both are Krishna's energy, it's so the material energy, the inferior thing, can be upgraded to spiritual energy. But the spiritual energy cannot be contaminated to the material energy. That's also something to understand. There was a time when I was going to a get together in the US, all Americans, non-devotees, obviously. And that was the time we were a little too strict. Me and my co-founder at the time, Ishudanandan, we were very strict with food and diet. We would socialize, but we would not eat something that is not offered to Krishna. And there's no question of eating non-veg. Now, these guys were cooking all non-veg. So I made some dishes. So, and I asked my mentor, I said, Prabhuji, I'm going to this place. I'm cooking for the entire group, but they will also be eating chicken and probably beef with prasadam. Is that an offense to the prasadam? Does it, contaminate the prasadam, etc.? He said the prasadam cannot be contaminated. Nothing spiritual can be contaminated by anything material. And prasadam is Krishna himself in one sense. So it is as good as Krishna because it's Krishna prasad. So if it comes in contact with impurities, it will actually be beneficial in any way or any form, even if they're eating it with non-veg. So that was wonderful for us. So I cooked some wonderful dishes, and we went to the get together, and these people ate all the nonsense stuff that they eat along with Krishna prasad, and they got the benefit. And that's the beauty of it. So material energy can be upgraded to spiritual energy, but spiritual energy cannot be contaminated by material energy. That's something we should know. That does not mean we always keep on downgrading spiritual energy. That doesn't mean we take things from the altar and throw it on the bathroom. That's not what we do. Having said that, you should understand the principle, and there is also reverence and respect, right? Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Text 7, someone wants to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Matah parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mayi sarvam idam protam sutre mani ghana eve. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Now, this is a verse worth memorizing because, at least for me, this is one of the verses that I really appreciate because it gives me a little in-depth appreciation of Krishna as a person, right? Generally, we see God, but here you see God's humility, right? So he's saying, referring to Arjuna, O conqueror of wealth, Dhananjaya, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So in one sentence, Krishna is expressing his supremacy as well as describing how humble he is. So just like on a thread, you don't see the thread, you see the pearls. Everything like the universe, all these planets are floating in space, and all these great scientists and researchers are wowed. Wow, such great, how gravity works and this and that. But they don't see the unseen thread that is Krishna. They're all floating in space, empowered by Krishna, right? So Krishna hides himself. He doesn't make himself the center of attention. All of you, not all of you, but many of you have seen my spiritual master, my guru, His Holiness Ramapada Swami Maharaj. And that is also one quality I appreciate about him. He has this tremendous ability to do all things where a leader would do, what a leader would do, but then not take the credit. and completely remove himself, almost hide himself from the center of attention. Now, we are entrepreneurs, we do personal branding, and we talk about our glories and our, things that we do. Having said that, in the spiritual context, when you are a spiritual entity or a spiritual authority, right? Uh, in the spiritual world, the mood is that of humility. The mood that attracts Krishna is that of humility, right? When Krishna was dancing with the gopis started thinking, Radharani started thinking, we're the most fortunate women in this entire universe, and Krishna vanished, right? Because Krishna doesn't like pride. Krishna is attracted to humility. So the humility that Krishna is attracted to, he also has it. And that's what you see entire creation. He does not put his name on every single thing, right? Those who have intelligence can see there must be somebody empowering that sun, right? That source of energy. There must be somebody who has a source, who's the source of that sun. There must be somebody who's helping these massive planets float in space. So there's creationist idea, there is intelligent design, and there is evolution, right? But at least somewhere intelligent people see the intelligent design, whether it's a cell, where a cell is acting in such complicated ways that one cannot even fathom, or it's a universe that is acting in such complicated ways that one cannot even fathom in millions of years. Both of them, smaller than the smallest, larger than the largest. Anuranyan, Mahato Mahi. That's Krishna. Smaller than the smallest, he's in every atom, and larger than the largest, he is Mahavishnu, where universes are coming out of his sweat pores. Imagine. So the point is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything rests on him. He's a thread on which the pearls are strung. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Matta parataram nanyat. There is no truth superior to me. Parataram, there is nobody superior. Kinchit asti dhananjaya. Anything else. Mai sarvam idam protam. That my, me, everything. Protam is strung. So on me, sutre manigana, just like the pearls are strung on the string, like that everything rests on me. So when Krishna says me, it includes Krishna and his expansions. So for example, these planets are empowered by Ananta Seshnag, as we know it, right? Krishna, just before that previous verse, he says, I'm the source of both material energy and spiritual energy. I'm also the cause of the dissolution. So universe completely annihilates, right? Cause of that dissolution is also Ananda Sesh. That's Balaram's expansion, and Balaram is Krishna's expansion. So Krishna, as the personality of Godhead, he's playing the flute with his girlfriend and the cows. He's happy. But his expansions take care of universal management, especially Balaram in the form of Mahavishnu, in the form of Paramatma, in the form of Ananta Sesh, in the form of Karanadaksha Vishnu, Garbhadaksha Vishnu. We talked about this last week, right? So Balaram is taking care of all things, right? Of management of the universe and creation. That's Balaram. And Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is enjoying. So God always enjoys, whereas the other aspect of God is taking care of everything else. So we have tremendous respect for Balaram. Again, unfortunately, in TV serials and all, they showcase Balaram as a funny character who doesn't have too much brains. Not true at all. Balaram is the strongest, acharya. He's the original spiritual master, and he maintains entire creation, right? Even all the paraphernalia that we worship the Lord with, or the kartal, or the mridanga that we do kirtan with, everything is expansion of Balaram. So we respect all of those paraphernalia of the Lord as we respect Lord Balaram, because Lord Balaram has the best service mood, right? He's always looking to serve in Krishna in all different rasas, right? Anybody remembers the 5 rasas, 5 relationships that you can have with Krishna? Anybody recalls? Indranath?
Uh,
Yeah, Shivam, go
yes,
ahead.
Prabhuji.
Yes,
As a father, son, friend, and the other two.
Okay, let Indranath finish. Yes, Indranath, go ahead.
yes, sir. So the first one is the parental relationship,
Hmm.
and the second one is Radharani relationship, like loving
Conjugal.
relationship, conjugal relationship, and the third one is the friendly relationship, and
Servitude.
service relationship, and the
Wow.
okay, Ashwarya, like
Ashwarya Bhav. Awe and reverence. Right? So these are the 5 different kinds of relationships one has with Krishna. There are more, but 5 primary relationships. Thank you, Shivam and Indranath. There is a common controversy over whether the supreme absolute truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And this is confirmed in every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the absolute truth is a person, that the personality of Godhead is a supreme absolute truth, is also the affirmation of the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That is the supreme absolute truth. Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, who is the primeval Lord and the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the absolute truth is the supreme person and the cause of all causes. The impersonalists, however, argue on the strength of the Vedic version known as Shvetashvatara Upanishad, where it says, Tato yat uttara taram tad arupam anamayam yat etad vidur amritaste bhavanti ethatare dukham evapyanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and the lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is a transcendence, and there is no material form, and is free from all material contamination. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffer the miseries of material world. The impersonalists put more stress on the word arupam, but this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, as described in the Brahma Samhita quoted above. Other verses in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad substantiate this as follows: Vedaham etam purusham mahantam aditya varnam tamasa parastat tam eva vidivati mrityum iti nanya pantha vidyate yanaya yasmat param na param asti kinchid yasman nanyo no jati jayo sti kinchid vriksha iva stabho divi tisthati ekas tenedam purnam purushena sarvam. I know that supreme personality of Godhead who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he who knows him can transcend the bond of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of the supreme person. There is no truth superior to the supreme person because he is the supermost. He is smaller than the smallest, he is greater than the greatest, right? He is situated as a silent tree. He illuminates the transcendental sky. And as a tree spreads its roots, he spreads his extensive energies. From these verses, one concludes that the supreme absolute truth is the supreme personality of Godhead, who is all pervading in his multi energies, both material and spiritual. So sometimes the supreme personality of Godhead can be misunderstood as formless. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is referring to very, very specifically here, that sometimes certain verses can be taken out of context and misunderstood. Arupam, right? Rupa, arupa. Rupa means beauty or form, and arupa means that which has no form. Now, Krishna does not have a material form. He's not like 6 feet 5 inches tall, but Krishna has a spiritual form. So he's actually unlimited in his form. At the same time, if you see him, he's somebody that isn't, when he was on the planet, he was not like a giant walking around, right? But at the same time, his spiritual form can take any shape and size. When Duryodhan wanted to arrest him, Krishna expanded, and it was the Vishwarup form. He expanded infinitely, and they couldn't arrest him. They tried to arrest God here. And again, on the chapter 11 coming up, you will see Krishna again expands himself into the Vishwarup form, which is really the universal form, right? So the same form, and Arjun says, please, Krishna, come back to your two-armed form. I'm very scared seeing your universal form. I don't like to see you like this. I like to see you as my friend, Govinda. So Krishna comes back to his two-armed form. Point is, Krishna can be unlimited in his form. So that does not make him formless. He has spiritual form, so he has full freedom to be what he wants to be. He can be Matsya avatar and be a fish. He can be Narsingadev and be half lion and half human. He can be anything he wants to be. He's not limited by our standards. We, born as a man or a woman, we are stuck in that form. We cannot change that to suddenly become something else. But even demigods can switch their forms. What to speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, where he can be anything. But in his case, it's not a material form, it's a spiritual form. He doesn't have veins, he doesn't have urine, pus, and things like that. He is made of Satchit Ananda, right? That's what he's made up of. He's not made up of blood, bones, and things like that, although he has a form. So important to understand that what we are made up of, what the dead body is burned, that's not how Krishna is. But to say he doesn't have a form is, that doesn't go with what the Bhagavad Gita says, or what Shvetashvatara Upanishad also says, or Brahma Samhita says, or many, many, many hundreds of other scriptures that point to the fact that God is a person. Person means one who has personality, likes, dislikes. Krishna is saying, offer me fruits, flowers. Don't, harm other living beings. So he's clear that be merciful to all living beings. Do this, don't do this. So Krishna is very, very clear. In the 16th chapter, you'll see how Krishna talks about the demoniac mentality. Why is he distinguishing? Because he's a person, he has a personality, and he is distinguishing. This is something, if you want to move in this path, you go in this direction. You want to move in that path, you go in that direction. Demoniac path, this direction. Demigod path, this direction. Transcendental path, this direction, right? So he's giving. It's not like, like certain missionary institutes, say, Yatomat Tatopat, Jotomat Tatopat, right? Not true, according to Bhagavad Gita. Krishna doesn't say that. He doesn't say you go to any path and you become liberated and you go back to Godhead. Then a person in the name of religion killing innocent people and also killing themselves. No, that's not the same as us chanting Hare Krishna for the rest of our lives, not harming any humans or animals, living a compassionate life, living a life of generosity and giving and doing all the wonderful things that we are doing. No, not true. That I go in my path and that terrorist goes in his path and we both reach the same destination. No, sorry, not true at all. Not true at all, right? So that's not what Krishna says. He says, Yanti Deva Vrata Deva, you worship the Devas, you go to Devas. Pitriyanti Pitrivataha, you worship the forefathers, you go to the forefathers. Kashyap Muni, Sandipani Muni, and all of that, right? Bhutejanti Bhutani, those who do Tantra, Mantra, black magic, worship ghosts, go where the ghosts are, hellish planets. And Madbhakti, my devotee, worships me, comes back to me. So the spiritual world, destination, the visa you get only when you're a Krishna devotee. You cannot be a Ganesh devotee and go to Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan. You cannot be a Ghodi sadhu, worshipping ghosts and goblins and go to Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan, right? So whatever path you follow, that is where you end up. It's very, very clear. Why is there a distinction? Because it's coming from a personality. It's coming from a person. He's telling you, this is how it is. So it's wrong to say God is formless energy and we can do whatever nonsense we want because energy doesn't say anything, and no point praying to energy either, right? So all these things, law of attraction, vagara. One thing they miss out is they forget that it's not the universe that is responding to you. It is a conscious being who's inside you. It's Paramatma. It's a person, personality of Godhead. When you pray, there is impact. What you think has impact. What your desires are has an impact. It is given by the personality of Godhead. Its personality is a very, very important aspect. And that's what Prabhupada is emphasizing here in text 7. Clear? Any questions?
No problem.
Okay, since you guys don't have any questions, I'll ask a question. A person, somebody debates with you that, oh, it's all energy. I don't believe in Krishna and all, 5,000 years ago, nobody came. Who has seen it? It's all imagination, it's mythology. How would you respond back? You can unmute your mic and answer. Yes, go ahead. Anant Prabhu.
So probably like a lot of people from among us also not in America.
Not able to hear you. Can you speak a little closer to the mic?
I'm audible now, probably?
Yeah.
Yeah, so probably I'm saying like a lot of among us haven't seen America or London till now, right? But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
But you have seen pictures
So-
of America and London.
So that's why actually we have seen the pictures of television Krishna also now in television. That's why this is a logic.
Okay. All right. Somebody else?
Prabhu, could you please repeat the question?
So somebody tells you it's all energy. I don't believe in some person, Krishna, who existed. He was just a man. He was, it was mythology and whatnot. I don't believe Krishna is real. That it's all God is energy, formless. How would you respond? How would you explain to the person that God is a person?
I had this one example. So let us say you enter a classroom which are full of benches and chairs. Just because there is no light, that doesn't mean the chairs and tables do not exist, right? So there are some things which is beyond our capability or our sense organs to capture it. So that doesn't mean that God does not exist or Krishna does not exist.
But I'm asking more specifically, how would you explain that God is a person and God is not just energy?
Roji, can I say something?
I think before you, somebody else had their hand up. Somya Dipta, I think, had his hands up.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, go ahead.
Actually, if somebody asks me that, what is the proof of God? You don't see God, so what is the proof of God? So
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. That's not what I'm asking here. Very specifically, I'm asking, person believes in God, but they're an impersonalist. That means they believe in a God who has no form. It's just Brahma Jyoti. And we are personalists. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand Krishna is a person. How do you explain to an impersonalist that God is a person?
Hello, Prabhuji. Hello.
So I'm just waiting Shamadipta if he wants to take a stab at answering that.
Hello, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Siddharth, but you have to wait a little bit. I'm waiting for Shamadipta to finish.
actually, in this sloka, that Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. So here Vigraha means a spiritual form. So
Very
from
good.
this we can
Very
understand
good.
that.
Yes, you quoted scripture. That's the important. That's our evidence.
Yes,
Scripture says Vigraha, he has a form. Lord Brahma is saying it, right? Very nice. Yes, somebody else wanted to answer? Yes, Yogesh, go ahead. Siddharth, sorry,
Prabhu.
Siddharth, you had before Yogesh.
Yeah, Prabhuji. We have three guns like Rajogun, Tamogun, and the other gun I forgot. So we can tell him that. So if you are following these three guns, like you are following the guns of a god. Like God has all these guns, like Rajogun. So the most
No, God is
foremost.
beyond all that. But I understood what you're saying. But is that convincing? Is that convincing in establishing God as a person?
Because if you want to, because if you want to be a human, like I read somewhere that you have to follow these principles, four dharmic principles. You are eligible for performing or establishing God.
Okay. All right. Somebody else, I think some Mataji wanted to ask. Okay, Prayash, go ahead.
Yeah, Prabhuji. So, like, if somebody is an impersonalist and they say that our stories of Mahabharata is like a mythology and they never existed, we can definitely show them proof of Dwaraka, like the documentary and the hard evidence of like the like Adam's Bridge they call it, but this Ram Setu. So the evidence of that, the Kurukshetra
archaeological evidence.
Archaeological evidence. So basically, when there is evidence, so that something must have happened, or the stories must be real, right? And that's then Krishna must be real, as he is a part of the story. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes, Yogesh.
Oh yes, Prabhu. It is also, I mean, like as it was mentioned that we can quote the scriptures. It is also mentioned in the Purusha Sukta, stating that the Brahmanas come from the head of Krishna, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas come from, Kshatriyas come from the shoulder, the Vaishyas come from the thighs, and the Shudras come from the foot of Krishna. All the pranas come are the breath of Krishna, and whereas the eyes and the sun and the moon are the eyes of Krishna. So it means that there is a form to Krishna, and it is from that form everything emanates.
Correct. That's a universal form. Yeah. Okay. Great. Yes, Akshat.
Yeah, Prabhuji. We can show them the example, like the sannyasis. They are practicing Krishna consciousness, and you also. So, like that, we can tell them there is a Krishna, definitely.
Vibhuti Mataji is saying we will just leave them in their thought process. No forceful Krishna consciousness. Yeah, there's no force. But you know what happens, Vibhuti Mataji? People force their thoughts on us. And sometimes it's important to uphold the truth and not accept the incomplete truth as it is, especially when people know you as a devotee, right? So when if nobody knows you're a devotee, that's okay. But when you are in a situation where you're propagating Krishna consciousness and people give misinformation and you don't correct that, I'm not saying we should all do that. We all have time for it. But when we are at that situation, when we correct that, others are watching. And those who are innocent bystanders, they should get the reality that, oh, there is more to it. And it's a faith building exercise for those people who didn't know. And that might be the beginning of their journey of Krishna consciousness. So it's not always okay. You're right. We should not force anyone. And this is not force. But if there is a debate, if there is somebody saying my daddy is better than your, or my concept is better than your concept, or your Krishna doesn't exist, right? It sometimes becomes a responsibility, if we feel confident enough, to have an argument and be like, hey, what you're saying is partial truth. Maybe there is more to it. Can we explore? And that's not force. That's just friends having conversation. You know, feel free to correct me. You're much senior to me. But I feel that. Actually, you're right. You know, what you're saying is what Krishna is also saying. He said, people don't have faith, leave them as it is. You know, Krishna is only saying, it's like, oh, it's okay, don't bother them.
Yeah, because, you know, one of my friend, I feel that she needs this Krishna consciousness in her life. So I really work hard to explain her the examples of my, because she understands and she has a connection with me. Whereas anybody else who's saying ki ye kya hai, so we just leave them. Theek hai, okay, just stay away. And I do not tell them much more, because I've learned this from you only, that we cannot force this. A person's little interest in Krishna consciousness, we can definitely go forward and explain then our experiences and our feelings towards that. But to rest of them, I don't even tell that I am following this thing or anything. We just keep quiet.
Absolutely, you're right. In most 99% cases, that is true. But there might be one case where you are the only person, who can actually answer it, and there's misconception being propagated. What do you do in that situation? You might have to open your mouth, and if you're well versed in the scriptures and understanding, then you're ready to answer that. So that's, most of you won't probably have to deal with that. But those of us, who might take up preaching or sharing this knowledge with others, there might be the audience, somebody might ask that question, and if you're not able to answer, then it discredits our tradition and philosophy.
But the person should, I'm sorry, the person should actually have the question. People generally don't tend, "Are ye kya kar rahi hai?" What she's doing. So it's better.
Those people we ignore.
Yeah. So because, even if my brother or anybody who's close to me is not into this, so I think maybe they say something which is like, I feel bad about Krishna, or I feel that they are not respecting as much as we do. So it's better to stay away and do not tell them that what we are doing. So somebody should not actually, I should not use the word bad mouth, but they do not understand what we are doing. So it's better to just be quiet.
Correct. Absolutely. And I think the best thing is action speaks much louder than words. If our actions are wonderful, then they will appreciate us. And when they appreciate us, our foundation is Krishna consciousness. So they'll automatically appreciate Bhagavad Gita and the philosophy. Absolutely. Okay, Akshat Prabhuji, then he might be atheist. Kranti, it is mentioned in Gita, which is said by Krishna himself. Very nice, Kranti. Simple and straight. Deepak, that energy who gives everything a form and he himself doesn't have a form, how is this possible? Very true. Absolutely logical. That if we have form, then our source must have a form. We cannot have a source not having something that we have. Very, very logical. Yes, you can say that. Chandrima Chaturaj. Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna, first person singular, and he is saying that he is the supreme person of Godhead. Exactly. Supradeep. Some of my friend had told me the same thing, that God is formless, shapeless, and they refer to Swami Vivekananda. Yeah. So again, we get our knowledge from scriptures. So whether it's Swami Vivekananda or Shankaracharya or whoever it is, we should always refer back to scriptures. Right? Where does it say in the scriptures? And then the context of it. And things become much clearer. All right. Moving on. So that was a nice exercise. Text 8. Ooh, this is very nice. Can I read this? I'll read this. Rasoham apsakanteya prabhashmi shashishurya pranavam sarva vedeshu shabdaha ke purusham nirsu. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Right? Again, this is Krishna speaking first person singular. So this is Krishna being very, very clear and direct. But he's saying, O son of Kunti, and the taste of water. So anything that is good, basically, that has a Krishna factor in it, right? So I have this exercise that I do to remember Krishna. So whenever I'm drinking water, I generally like to think Rasoham apsakanta, especially when I'm like really thirsty and drinking, and that feeling of satisfaction of like, this is the feeling of Krishna. Rasoham apsakanteya, right? I'm the taste in water. Although water is tasteless, but it's that sense of satisfaction. Nothing, Coca-Cola, Limca, Nimbu water, nothing comes comparison to water when you're thirsty, that sense of satisfaction that you get from water, right? Of course, those are also rasa. Those are also, the taste of that is also Krishna. Rasoham doesn't mean just water. In fact, Prabhupada said, those who are addicted to drinking alcohol, if they drink alcohol with the consciousness that this is this taste that I'm enjoying so much, if there is enjoyment in alcohol, I don't know, but this taste that I enjoy so much, this taste is Krishna. And by just thought process, they will get purified, and eventually they'll be able to give up drinking alcohol and addictive substances that people enjoy that are not necessarily good for our health. So, and then he says, I'm the light of the sun and the moon, right? So, Prabhashmi Shachishurya, the effulgence of the sun and the moon. So, according to science, the moon is reflecting the light of the sun. But according to Bhagavad Gita, the moon is effulgent and the sun is also effulgent. And the source of both the effulgences is Krishna. Now, something interesting you would like to hear. Just like we know that from sunlight, photosynthesis happens and plants derive energy and thereby they sustain. We also get vitamin D from the sunlight. But did you know that from the moonlight, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that the moonlight is what gives taste to the plants and vegetables, right? When I heard this, I was like, oh, that's very interesting. So sun gives the life force to them and the moon gives the taste to these vegetables. So both are very, very important. Without the moon, apparently we would not have taste in fruits and vegetables. So Krishna is saying, I'm the light, I'm the effulgence of the sun and the moon. And the syllable Om in the Vedic mantra. So Krishna is the syllable Om. That's why we all, we say Om. Many people meditate on Om, right? What is Om? He's saying, I am Pranava. Pranava means the sound Om. Pranab Mukherjee was one of our presidents, right? So Pranava is actually referred to of the sound Om. And from that sound, actually, creation begins, right? When I was talking about last class, Mahatattva. Mahatattva is all the material elements in a soup form. So it's a sound Om that starts the disintegration process where the different elements come out, the false ego, the three modes of nature, intelligence, mind, etc. They all disintegrate. And then there's earth, water, fire, air, ether disintegrate and all of that. The instigating factor is Om, right? From that. So Om, Krishna is saying that sound Om is me in the Vedic mantra. So all the prominent Vedic mantras start with Om, like the Gayatri mantra or anything. So they start with Om. That means it is offering reverence to Krishna. And then whatever the mantra, shloka and whatnot. Even if it is a mantra for demigods, that you'll see the word Om is recited because Om invokes that divine potency. And that Om is Krishna. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Now, there is some scientific amazingness here, right? So sound travels through certain medium. So Krishna is actually referring to it, that in space also sound is traveling. So in the moon, for example, when you say something, it reaches the other person after a long time. So Krishna is mentioning the medium on which sound travels. I'm the sound in ether. And he's saying, I'm the ability in man. So whatever wonderful things we see around us, people do it. Somebody has built an airplane that can have, tons and tons of weight floating and going at the speed of sound. Somebody has a lot of muscles, Arnold Schwarzenegger, big, strong guy. Somebody is a big doctor, somebody saving lives, somebody is a politician. All that ability, Krishna is saying, I am the ability in man. Because who are we? We are the soul. And we are in this body. But where does the ability come from? With the same 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 ears, limbs and whatnot, same body, different people are doing different things in the 24 hours that is given to them. Warren Buffett is making so much money, and somebody who doesn't have so much ability is on the streets, not able to earn anything for themselves, or somebody's saving lives as a fire worker, somebody's establishing law and order, somebody's fighting against justice. All these ability, when we appreciate people, this is an opportunity to remember Krishna. Oh, wow, that ability is coming from Krishna. That is very cool, right? So that it's not just human worship. I just saw, I don't know if it is true or not, this guy, Dera Sacha Sauda or whatever, Ram Rahim, apparently this murder has been proved. So he has been, we like to worship humans, we like to worship man-made gods. There is a real God. And here is Krishna helping us remember him. Through these methods, we can remember Krishna. When we're drinking water, or when we are thirst is quenched, we can remember there's a taste of Krishna, right? This is Prabhasmi, when we see the sunlight and the moonlight day after day, years after years, coming and nourishing us, giving us what we need, we can appreciate Krishna. When we see wonderful people doing wonderful things, the ability in man, can say, wow, that ability is coming from Krishna. So every moment there's an opportunity to remember Krishna. And that's what Krishna is giving us by describing these verses. The verse explains how the Lord is all pervasive by his divine, diverse material and spiritual energies. The Supreme Lord can be preliminarily perceived by his different energies. And in this way, he is realized impersonally. So Sir Isaac Newton, he was a wonderful scientist, but he was also a philosopher. Back in the days, like PhD, doctorate in philosophy right? So back in the days, scientists were also philosophers. And Sir Isaac Newton was a very staunch Christian, well-read in theology and philosophy. And he had an atheistic friend. Many of you might know the story, but I'll say it anyway because it's nice. So he had an atheistic friend who didn't believe in God. He believed that all of this existed just by chance. And Sir Isaac Newton one day created the replica of the our solar system, with all the planets and the sun in the middle and everything. And he invited his friend, and his friend said, wow, this is beautiful. Who made this? And Newton said, it just existed by itself. And his friend said, you must be crazy. This cannot exist by itself. There must be somebody who created this replica. It's like, no, it just happened by chance. It just happened. These balls got together and there is this replica and this planet. It's like, no, there has to be a creator for this. And Sir Isaac Newton persisted. And eventually he said, well, if there's a creator for the replica, what makes you think that the original solar system doesn't have a creator? It just happened to exist just by itself. And it's so perfectly designed that it doesn't crash into each other. They're perfectly moving in order, et cetera, right? So the atheistic friend became thoughtful hearing this explanation, and he started contemplating. So it's important to see things, not just take it for granted, but appreciate what is behind them. If somebody is giving you food, you should appreciate the chef who has cooked the food, right? A lot of times, great people do that. When they go to a restaurant or some delegate comes from foreign country, they will appreciate, please tell the chef this was a very well made food. Why? Because they're able to appreciate the person who made it. Versus when we go to restaurants, we don't appreciate the chef. We are just like, I paid for the food, I ate the food, I moved on, right? But thoughtful people appreciate the creator behind it. So when we know Krishna's material opulence, right, we can appreciate the creator behind it. That somebody's paying for the energy bills for the sun. Somebody is making sure that nothing crashes. Everything is going in perfect speed, right? Sound is traveling through space, etc., etc. Right? So there's an opportunity to observe and appreciate the personality of Godhead. As the demigod in the sun is a person and is perceived by the all-pervading energy, the sunshine, so the Lord, although he is his eternal abode, is perceived by his all-pervading diffusive energies, right? So these are different energies of the Lord. All right. The light of the sun and the moon is also originally emanating from the Brahma Jyotir, which is the impersonal effulgence of the Lord. So in the Brahma Samhita it is given that the Brahma Jyoti is actually the bodily effulgence of Krishna. Right? So the impersonalists love to talk about his energy is the Brahman, and you get merged in the Brahman and you become one with God. And that is true, but it's partial truth. There is beyond that. Brahma Jyoti is the energy of the Lord, but there is the Lord beyond, from whom this energy is coming from. The energetic is Krishna. And the pranava or the omkar, transcendental sound, in the very beginning of every Vedic hymn addresses the Supreme Lord. Because the impersonalists are very much afraid of addressing Supreme Lord Krishna by his innumerable names, they prefer to vibrate the transcendental sound Omkar. But they do not realize that Omkar is the sound representation of Krishna. The jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness extends everywhere, and one who knows Krishna consciousness is blessed. Those who do not know Krishna are in illusion, and so knowledge of Krishna is liberation, and ignorance of him is bondage. So when we have the complete knowledge of who God is, that liberates us. Honestly, I'll tell you, I come from a Hindu family where when we had our puja room growing up, we had, I don't know, there were probably 100 pictures. I mean, so many gods and demigods, it's impossible to even imagine. And there's so many rules and rituals, do this and do that. As a kid, I would always struggle, like, oh my God, managing all that is so difficult. When I came to Krishna consciousness, it was a relief. It's one God, thank God there's one God, right? And this God is not judgmental. If I do a mistake, it's not that I'm going to hell. There's no fear in Krishna consciousness. There's no like rituals, and you don't do this, you lose money, and your mother will die, and this and that. All these scary things, you'll go to hell and you'll be burnt in oil. And, finally liberated from all that. Krishna is a loving God, and he loves you, and he sees you struggling and trying. He will extend his own hand. He'll send his devotee. He'll send you the scriptures. He will give you the perfect opportunity and the circumstance and the intelligence so that you can come back to him. That's the God I love, right? That's Krishna. I'm so glad that is the God, right? And not the God who is like judgmental, this judgment day, you're going to hell, you're going to heaven, and this, and you didn't do this, you did said that mantra wrong, so now you're going to lose all your whatever, right? Liberated from all that. So coming to Krishna consciousness, even at the beginning, is like liberation from all these problems. And what to speak of one engages and moves forward. One gets liberated from the material conception of life. Something bad happens, you don't get morose. You're like, okay, something good will happen soon. It's just part of life. Bhagavad Gita says, Krishna says, it's changing. Good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. It's just how it is, right? You're liberated from fear. You're liberated from attachments. You're liberated from foolish superstitions, right? All of these things you're liberated from, and eventually you're liberated from the bodily conception of life. I'm this body. Oh my God, what if I die? Right? That fear of death, that also goes away. Imagine how wonderful death would be if you don't have a fear, right? You are happy actually that you're going to see Krishna face to face. You're on your journey, and you're on the journey to meet your creator. So that's how devotees' deaths are actually wonderful. I have seen some of them, and it's just, initially it was mind-blowing, to be honest, like how do devotees die? And they're like, literally, it's a joyful moment. They're not scared at all of death, because they know, it's like Prabhupada describes that the tiger's teeth, those canines are death for the deer, but for the tiger cub, the same teeth is mother's love. So same teeth, the tiger, tears apart the deer and is picking up the child, the cub, gently, and taking it from one place to another. So for us, death is not a fearful thing. For materialists, death is very fearful, because they're going to lose everything, family, money, all the things they work for, gone with death. For us, it's a continuum. We are not scared of death, or at least when we get to that point, we wouldn't be scared of death, because for us, it's a continuum, and nothing that we have worked for is lost. Material things gone, but all the spiritual things accumulated will continue to wherever we go next. So with this, on a positive note, I'll end today's discussion. Thank you very much for joining. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and wonderful Durga Puja, wonderful Navratri, and enjoy your festivities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.